Good morning. I'm Rob Califf, Commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration. The main purpose of my being here is to let people know that we're working hard at the FDA, seeing an amazing opportunity in front of us as science has evolved to the point that we can envision treatments for so many diseases that were untreatable before. And to meet this moment, it's a huge increase in the amount of work, but also the sophistication of the science. So we have to constantly evolve at the FDA to be able to account for the science, help the community develop effective treatments, also evaluate the treatments. For those that don't work, we don't want to mislead people or have people misled thinking treatments will work when they won't. So a lot of work is underway, and we've sort of covered multiple areas that we're working on. Well, thanks to the rare disease community, the Orphan Drugs Act was passed 40 years ago. There are now 600 drugs on the market for 1,200 indications that wouldn't have been on the market. But this is only the beginning, and we'll see this exponential increase now. And I think what we've gotten right, for the most part, is good communication, the incorporation of patient experience, meeting the needs of patients as they express it themselves, working with the companies in development so that they do a better job, working on common platforms and new methods. But it's not perfect, and there's always unevenness. We're human beings, after all. You know, the best way to think about the FDA really is we're like referees. The rule book is actually written by Congress that tells us what the criteria should be for putting a product on the market. Then we interpret the rule book. The players in the game are the companies developing the products. The beneficiaries of it all, of course, will be the public and, of course, people with diseases. So what we have to do is look at what we do best and try to make that uniform throughout the FDA. 18,000 people, all working hard, but human beings after all. Well, when you talk about challenges at the FDA, well, I could go on a long time, but I think the number one challenge right now is just it's overwhelming, the advance of science, the complexity of what we're seeing, and then we have a limited amount of time and a lot of people who want to interact with the FDA. The most significant part of negotiations on the user fees that the companies pay is how much time they can get in meetings and how the meetings are held. People tend to focus on the final drama of someone submits an application for approval and the FDA makes a decision. What they don't realize is that most of the products that don't make it to market are dropped well before an application would go in, because that interaction leads to a conclusion that the product is not going to work. And if you're investing in a company or have your hopes on a product, you'd rather find out sooner rather than later. And that's a big part of what we do. But we also have real fundamental scientific challenges, like what is the appropriate statistical method when you have 10 people with a disease? We depend on averages in clinical trials for most things that we do, where we have a time-proven approach. But this is a new area where we've got to develop methods as we go. Well, you know, I like to say that we are like referees at the FDA, and referees in any sport get used to being booed and people finding fault with every call. It's just part of what you accept when you come to work at the FDA, and it means we have very dedicated people, because why would you sign up for a job where everything you do gets criticized by somebody? And in many of the decisions we make, actually a sign that it's a good decision if both sides are a little upset with what we've done. For every accelerated approval, for example, that we give, there's a group of people who are more conservative who say you needed to know more about the risks and benefits before you gave that approval. And then there's a group that says you should have done it earlier. So it's just part of the lifestyle. Sometimes it's very hard on our employees, and we have to spend a lot of time talking about it, but it's also invigorating. Like all referees in sports, we like to see the game played well, and when someone plays a great game and there's a product that makes a difference, it makes it all worthwhile. It's very exciting. I'll just say this is an amazing time. Everything that we've known up until now is probably a fraction of what we'll know 10 years from now. because of the advances of computing, digitization, understanding the genome and genetics, the availability of CRISPR to go in and snip and alter the genome for these diseases that were untreatable, the availability of large language models, which means we can incorporate global electronic records in a way we just couldn't do before. So most of the good stuff is ahead of us yet, and we have to meet the moment.